Hello, I'm Cute Spooky, and this is what I look like today. Why do I look like this today? Because today I'm walking you through my first month in Ova Magica. A big thank you to Top Hat Studios, who were kind enough to give me a release key for early access. I played the demo for this game during the Steam Next Fest this past June. As I said in the article I wrote about it, Ova Magica was my favorite demo out of the dozens that I played during that event, and I'm very happy for its release. Let's get into my first month in Clovertown. Before we start, I'm gonna have to explain the schedule in Ova Magica. If you're well versed in the farming sim genre, you're probably used to there being 4 seasons consisting of 4 weeks, with 7 days making up each of those weeks. This game only has 3 seasons, because spring and summer are combined. When I first started recording this video, months in Ova Magica had 3 weeks, with 4 days each. I played through the first week, and then I took a break to work on some of my other videos. During that break, the game got updated, and now months have 5 weeks instead of 3. This change placed my save at week 3, skipping week 2 entirely. This is a good reminder that you never know what can happen during early access. That said, the change feels fine. It gives you more time between festivals to focus on whatever activities you want. The game started by asking if I wanted to carry over my saved data from the demo, but I decided to start over from scratch. On the train ride to Clovertown, my mom told me I've inherited a farm, but first, I must choose my human vessel. Naturally, I decided to become a pink menace. Thank you, devs, for adding Twin Tails to your game. Once I arrived at Clovertown, I was greeted by the mayor, Jade, Ruby, and this guy. I think he's the real mayor. Just look at his hat. They introduced themselves to me, and I love that their character designs match their blobs. Ruby took me to the Blob League, and on the way, Lapis bumped into me, because he thinks he's so cool with his blue swishy hair. But he's not, and I can't wait to make him cry. We entered the league, and I got to choose my first blob. I picked the Storm-type blob, and got to hatching the egg. Just look at how you have to hatch them. It's so cute. And thus, my shy blueberry was born. Ruby decided to fight my newborn son, and I destroyed her, so she should probably retire, cause wow, how embarrassing for her. By the way, I love how Thor looks at me while I give him a command, like, Mom, what do I do? Destroy her. After the battle, the girl showed me the farm I inherited, which needed some love. It didn't even come with a house, so they surprised me with a tent that took them all day to put up. Nothing exhausts you more than watching other people work hard, so I tucked in for the night. As soon as I woke up the next day, I was greeted by Jade. Thor was hungry, so we needed to get him some food. Jade taught me how to farm. I used my shovel to remove withered crops and collected soil to craft more plant beds at my workbench. After I placed them down, I broke up the soil with my hoe, and Jade handed me carrot and tomato seeds. I planted those suckers and got to watering them. All that work made me hungry, and Jade said I needed some healthy food to keep my energy up. So she handed me 10 apple pies, the healthiest of foods. I ate a whole pie right in front of her like it was nothing. And of course, I had to feed my 1-day-old son an entire apple pie as well. With the farming tutorial over, I was left with more seeds to plant. After planting those, I spent the rest of the day exploring the town. I picked some sunflowers and stole some apples because it's free real estate. I met Coral and her army of children in front of the ruins, and she tried to recruit me into the Adventurers Club, but I was too poor to join. I met Flint and tried to battle him, but he was a filthy cheater, and I had no choice but to escape. I then met Citrine and her dad, and they treated me to a free meal. I ate it in 3 seconds to show my dominance. After that delicious meal, I checked out the Blob League and discovered they were selling Lapis dolls. I wanted to buy one and use it as a voodoo doll, but I'd need to save up for it. I headed into the main town area, and wow, there was a lot to see. I found a fun wheel to spin, and I won a pineapple. I went around collecting flowers and stumbled upon the Carpenter building, where I met Chiroi and her cute bat blob. I need one. She gave me an axe and a pickaxe and said she would build me a house if I brought her all the materials. I went back to picking flowers and came across a beautiful mansion. It was there I met another shy blueberry, and she had the same hairstyle as me, so we're practically best friends now. She invited me inside her house, and while living inside her walls, I discovered that she owns a Lapis doll. Why is it always the ones you trust the most? I headed back to the main square and found out that it was Founders Day, and no one told me. Rude. I donated 2 clovers that I foraged, but it was only enough to fill 1 bucket. I wondered what would happen if you filled them all. I found the town's restaurant and met Sapphire, who was getting yelled at by his boss. Awkward. I headed to the mayor's office, and he wanted me to introduce myself to everyone in town. I was already gonna do it, but now I don't wanna. I ran into Opal, literally, at the clinic, and her rat blob tried to give me rabies. Too bad for it. I already have 7 forms of it. With the day coming to an end, I checked out the beach. I collected some oysters and met Garnet on the docks. She gave me a fishing rod and invited me out on her boat sometime. I headed back to my tent to get some sleep. On day 3, Sapphire came by and delivered a campfire and fillet table blueprints, along with some food recipes, which is good because I had been living off of apple pies. I received a Frosty Blob in the mail for playing the demo, and he was adorable. It was raining, so I didn't have to water my crops. I checked what materials I'd need to build the campfire and fillet station, and started collecting them. After building them, I set back out into town to greet more of the villagers. I started with Emerald, who showed me a cool bug he caught, and gave me a bug catching net. What a nerd. Then I tracked Mud all over Carnelian's shop, and he handed me his business card, because that's business, baby. I met Jasper, who almost ran me over, and then blamed me for it. I'm only putting up with him because he promised me a steamboard of my own. I continued exploring and came across some mysterious buildings that are works in progress. I can't wait to see what they'll be. I found the mines, but I didn't have enough energy to explore them. I also found this forbidden zone, and I want to know what's in there so bad. With nothing else to do, I went to bed early. I woke up to Carnelian installing a shipping bin on day 4, so I could start making money. I checked my mail and was notified it was the day of the Painted Egg Festival. I watered my crops and put a bunch of forageables in the shipping bin before heading out. It didn't start until noon, so I enjoyed the decorations and catching up with everyone outside the main town. I learned that we would be hunting eggs, and that's so sad for everyone else because I was gonna crush them. When the festival started, I talked to everyone and checked out all of the stalls. I found cute bunny blobs and was told I could get one after the egg hunt. That became my main goal, but there were other goodies to earn. I talked to the mayor to start hunting those eggs. I had over 2 minutes to collect as many as possible. I have to say, the egg hunting techniques of the villagers were something. I managed to collect 50 eggs and purchased a bunny blob, recipes for carrot cake and stew, and some cute bunny ears. I didn't have enough eggs to buy everything at the shop, but that left me with goodies to pick up the next year. I chatted everybody up again before heading home and expended the rest of my stamina to gather some materials for building a house. When that ran out, I headed to bed. Week 2 started with the mayor visiting me and handing over a resident certificate. That's right. I'm a certified resident, which meant I could enter the blog league challenge. I collected my money from the shipping bin and checked my mail to discover I was wanted for an interview. Week 2, and I'm already famous. I also learned the Shooting Stars event was tonight, so I'd need to stay up late. This is where the time skip I talked about earlier happened. So we're in week 3 now, and that means we missed the Shooting Stars event by a week. R.I.P. I watered my crops and saw that I had enough coins to join the Adventurers Club. I headed over to Coral to join, and she introduced me to the gang. I discovered that the orphan children live inside of a bar, and Coral is a heavy drinker. I thought this place was in desperate need of funds. I was starting to feel scammed. Coral had to drag me away from the alcohol and introduce me to the kids as an official member. I promised I would take them on an expedition one day and left the building. Coral handed me a uniform outside. Ruby showed up and she just got to join for free? Okay, I was definitely scammed, but at least I got an outfit out of it. I walked over to the Blob League to enter the first tournament, but I learned I'd have to earn enough points to challenge it. I went upstairs to earn my first qualifier point. I was attacked by eggs, but the chicken was no match for my blueberry. You can only earn 1 point a day, so I left and headed into town. I tried my luck at the health wheel and won a slice of watermelon. I remembered I was wanted for an interview and headed into the newspaper place. Jet asked me a few questions, like, how has my time in town been so far? I told him I was living in a tent, so, not great. He also asked me about my relationship with Lapis, and I told him I'm going to destroy him. The mayor showed up and asked Jet to create a registry of everyone in the town, because he was having a hard time remembering everyone. Jet pushed this task onto me, so I was handed a camera and got to work. It doesn't matter how good or bad the photos are, because the photos themselves aren't saved. That's a good thing, because the camera is clunky to use. Also, you can take photos through walls. Who is this girl that stays locked up in Carnelian's home? I checked in on Lazuli, and she had lost Belle. I don't think she tried that hard to find her. I took photos until it got dark. Ignore this photo. I sold the forageables I picked up earlier and got into bed. I woke up to Flint trying to bring me breakfast in bed, but his blob ate it on the way there. He gave me blueprints for a blob barn and a feeder, so I could now keep more blobs. I took care of my garden and spent skill points to decrease the energy cost for tool actions. I started collecting materials for a house because I was tired of sleeping in a tent. I headed over to the carpenter's place to purchase a new home once I had them all. Then I continued taking photos of residents. Along the way, I fought Garnet, and my rabbit destroyed her. She gave me an octopus for winning, but I wasn't ready to be a parent yet, so I put it in storage. I overheard a conversation about the town not having a museum, so I wondered if that was a hint for what's to come. I sold my forageables and headed to bed after taking photos all day. I woke up to a fire? Just kidding. Troy lied to wake me up. She told me she built the house around me while I slept and gave me some furniture blueprints and a furnace blueprint. Now I could get to smelting, which meant I'd probably want to visit the mine soon. It was raining, so I didn't need to water my crops. I harvested the ones that were finished growing and collected materials for a table I placed next to my bed. I tried out fishing for the first time, and all I caught were fish bones and garbage. Yeah, looks like we're starving again today, boys. I got back to taking pictures. This blob reminded me of Dr. Phil. I talked to Lapis, and he claimed I was the one who ran into him my first day here. Count your days, buddy. I earned my next qualifier point while I was there. I realized I was missing the vendor's blob, but I didn't remember seeing him with one. I headed back over there and it was this little guy. And with that, I was done with taking pictures for the time being. I went back to my house and fell asleep. I checked my mail the next morning and saw that the Night of Roses festival was happening later. I harvested the last of my crops. I talked to everyone outside the main town, then realized the festival wouldn't start until 6 p.m. Without much else to do, I went back to the farm to collect materials until I ran out of energy. After that, I went around foraging for clovers for a couple hours. I needed to donate more anyway. When the festival started, I headed into town. I chatted everybody up and scoped out the shop. The event shop took regular money, so I wasn't able to get anything this time around. I talked to the performers, and they roped me into performing with them. I chose the hardest difficulty for the rhythm game because it was time to show them what 103 hours of Muse Dash can do. Apparently not much, because I missed tons of notes. My final score was a B, but I was still showered with roses. I wasn't sure if they had any other use in the game, so I sold them all for a decent chunk of money before heading to bed. I retrieved my money from the shipping bin the next day and headed to the Blob League to earn my next point. Unfortunately, I had to escape because I didn't have a magma-type blob to go against this kiwi. I spun the wheel and won a pineapple, which I fed to my blueberry because he was craving one. I donated the clovers I foraged yesterday, and look at how full the buckets were now. I met up with Coral to finally check out the ruins. Ruby tagged along. The inside of the ruins looked mysterious, and I was forced to take part in some kind of ritual that summoned a portal to another dimension. Now we're talking. Me and Ruby headed off into the blob world after Coral handed us a return wand. We arrived in the mystic forest, and it took all but a few steps until we were ambushed by some wild blobs. Having Ruby there with me came in clutch, because Usagi died. After the battle, I broke down a box and found some grape seeds. Then I chopped down some mushrooms for light spores. No idea what those are used for yet, but I stockpiled them anyway. I found another box, and this one had 50 coins in it. Managing my inventory here was a nightmare. I really should have upgraded my bag first, but I forgot. I found another box and received strawberry seeds, then another which dropped pumpkin seeds. Meat fell out of some blobs that I battled, so I fed that to my blueberry because he craved flesh. Who's a good boy? You are. My inventory was full, my stamina was low, and my team was looking rough. So I left the blob world. I headed straight for the shop and upgraded my bag for 2,000 coins. I also bought the blueprint for a dresser so I could finally put on those bunny ears I earned during the egg festival. With no more stamina to spend, I headed back to the farm. I noticed I had mail waiting for me there. In his letter, Flint told me he knows I've been in the blob world and gave me an egg that will help me with my adventures, since he was worried about me. You know, I'm really starting to fall for Flint. but I have to make Lapis fall in love with me first so I can break his heart. I tried to hatch it, but I needed a barn first, since my team was full. Harold also sent me a letter informing me he sells useful items for the blob world, and gave me another one of those runes I'd need to create portals. I guess they are one-time use items, so I decided to hold off on visiting again until I was better prepared. I didn't have the energy to gather the materials I need for the barn, so I headed to bed early. I started day 10 by planting all the seeds I found yesterday, not realizing that 2 of them don't even grow during this season. Oops. I immediately started gathering the materials I'd need for a barn, because I really wanted to know what was inside the egg Flint gave me. I ran out of stamina, so I headed into town to earn my next league point. It was a different opponent this time, so winning was no problem for Usagi. I went to check out Harold's shop, and he hit me with this wisdom out of nowhere. I found some new people to take pictures of in the ruins, and confirmed runes are one-time use items. I went for my daily wheel spin and won a banana, which I fed to my bunny. For the rest of the day, I foraged around town, making sure to greet everyone I came across to get my friendship levels up. On day 11, I started by watering my crops and saw that 2 crops had wilted. I watered them anyway because I was in denial that I had wasted seeds. I continued gathering materials for a barn and placed one down near my house. I headed straight inside and was jump scared by Jade, who had a cow blob egg for me. After hatching it, she explained how to feed and pick up after my blobs. Once she left, I hatched the egg Flint gave me and discovered the cutest blob ever. And it was a magma type, which would be super useful in battles. He really knows how to woo me. I then spent way too long trying to figure out how to switch my team around. For some reason, you can't do it on the blob tab in the main menu. You have to go to this book in the barn to swap your blobs around. I swapped out Frosty for my new magma fox and headed to the blog league for another point. It was an easy win for my fox, and now I was only 1 point away from qualifying for the tournament. I went to tell Lapis about my victory, but he told me to go away. Just you wait. I worked more on getting friendship levels up. I entered into the breedery where Flint lives and received another special egg from his parents. I took pictures of them after grabbing my camera. I took the egg back to my blob barn to hatch it, and it turned out to be a bomb. These people are insane. Were they threatening me to stay away from their son? Because now I just want to go for him more. I spent to win and got a pineapple again. I donated the last of my clovers to the donation booth, and now all of the buckets were filled. I tried to catch some bugs, but I'm terrible at it. The bees are frickin' impossible. I ran out of stamina, sold what I did catch, and went to bed. I realized I missed the Shooting Stars event last night, so I won't get to experience it until next month. I watered my crops and headed to the mines for the first time. I mined some copper ore and battled some blobs, but they were a little too strong, so I had to escape before I was able to collect everything I wanted to. I stopped by the beer garden to replenish my blob's health with pancakes. I discovered that eating meals here unlocks the recipes for them. I headed to the Blob League after the meal to earn the last point I needed, and won. I wouldn't be able to enter the tournament until tomorrow though. I did my daily spin and won another frickin' pineapple. I decided to spend the rest of the day getting my friendship levels up and went fishing. I tried a new spot this time and actually managed to catch some fish and shrimp. After running out of stamina, I headed back home to fillet the fish I had caught and sold the junk before getting into bed. I watered my crops the next morning and foraged a bit before going to the Blob League. I accidentally learned about the Vanguard when I tried to taunt Lapis. What the heck is the Vanguard? This was no time to question them though. I had a tournament to win, and Lapis was the guest commentator. Whatever, watch me destroy these people just like I'm gonna destroy you one day. The first battle was my blueberry against a less cute fox. Thor got down to half health, but he won in the end. Lapis insulted my performance before the second battle started. This time, it was my bunny against a bat blob. He used this annoying move that kept me from being able to attack for 3 turns, and one that blinded me, but I defeated him eventually. Lapis made sure to get a backhanded compliment in, and my final opponent was Ruby. I sent out my cute fox to fight her, and I won. Lapis couldn't help but to throw in one last insult before I was crowned the winner. Look at my gold trophy. Are you looking, Lapis? As some sort of cruel joke, I won a meal with Lapis's face on it, along with some money. I checked to see how much a voodoo doll of lapis was at the league shop again, but I still didn't have enough coins to get one. I went to do my daily spin and won a watermelon that I fed to my fox. I donated more clovers to the buckets, but I'm not sure there was any reason to at that point. I ate at the beer garden to obtain the Hawaiian pizza recipe, as it seemed to be a seasonal one. I visited the mines again, and I tried to stealthily mine ore, but those blobs were not having it. I managed to break 3 rocks before narrowly escaping. These blobs were hunting me for sport. I found enough ore to build a furnace, so I got to breaking rocks around the farm for the rest of the materials I would need. I noticed a wall that needed an explosion to open while I was collecting materials. I tried to bring my bomb blob over there, but it didn't have the ability to blow it up. What a ripoff. Wait, I got him for free. Anyway, I went to bed because I didn't have enough stamina to collect all the materials I needed for the furnace. The next morning, I took care of my blobs and watered my crops before obtaining the last piece of coal I needed to build a furnace. I placed it next to my barn and started smelting the copper ore I got from the mines. While that was going, I collected more materials around the farm. With my first copper ingot, I built a dresser. As soon as I placed it down, I went to change into my bunny ears. Look how cute I am now. I went into town to show off my new ears to everybody. I took a chance at the wheel and won nothing. This wheel was rigged. I had my first heart event with Citrine where she needed my help with marketing. I helped her hand out flyers outside the beer garden, but no one was interested until she started dancing. Not only did she get customers to show up, but Jet decided to interview her as well. She said she was embarrassed to dance outside, but girl, you do that every day. Anyway, I got a shiny new skill point to spend. This motivated me to go and say hi to all of the residents. Building up friendships is super important in this game. I foraged along the way. Before the night was over, I went back to the beer garden to get the recipe for fresh salad. After that, I stored all my forageables and went to bed. It was raining the next day, so I did not need to water my crops. I took care of the blobs in the barn and received my first bottle of milk. I saw that I needed to get all of my friendship levels up for the next tier of the tournament. I spent the skill point I earned yesterday on the ability to show the weather for tomorrow in the calendar. I didn't know how helpful that would be, but I couldn't afford much else. I entered the town and got back to working on those friendship levels. I'd need to get everyone to level 1 for the next tournament. I also got the last recipe I needed from the beer garden, the breakfast plate. I continued earning friendship points and foraging for stuff to sell. I tried the wheel again, and this time I won the kiwi egg. I headed back to my barn to hatch it and switched out my bunny for it. Since this one was level 24, it had a special ability called Seed Scoop, but I couldn't figure out what that does. I fed my blobs some treats they were craving and gathered materials around the farm until I ran out of stamina. Having nothing else to do, I headed to bed a bit early. The next day was the Founders Day event. I would finally get to learn what all of those clover buckets were for. I harvested the last crops of the season and dug out the failed ones. I took care of my blobs in the barn and headed into town for the pre-celebration. I talked to everyone outside the main area until the festival started at noon. The first person I saw was Lapis, and to my surprise, he was in a good mood and blushing. No, don't do this to me. Stay strong, Pook. I walked around the festival collecting lucky tickets off the ground and talked to everybody. I joined a pudding eating contest and managed to scarf down 21, which earned me that many tickets. I talked to Jade, who was standing by the clover buckets, and she told me I had donated the most clovers out of any of the other residents. My reward was a clover blob egg. Definitely worth it. I tried my luck out on another wheel, and it landed on 1 every single time. Rigged. I then played a basketball minigame and got 17 tickets out of it because it was hard. The next minigame was a fishing one, and this one was my least favorite. You had to fill the bar at just the right amount for it to go into the pool, and if you reeled it in when the exclamation point was red, you lost a point along with the time it took you to fail. It was not fun, and I only got 12 tickets out of it. I listened to the mayor yap about the history of the festival, and he rewarded me with 25 tickets for getting through it all. Score. The last minigame was a strength test. I got a decent amount of tickets out of it, and I impressed Flint with my strength. With no more tickets to earn, I headed over to the event shop. It turned out the egg I got for free from Jade would have cost me 55 tickets. I bought the lucky pudding recipe and a basketball because my blueberry wanted to play with one. It was the same minigame from the festival, and let me tell ya, he's going pro. I really liked that it wasn't a single-use toy. It was well worth the ticket cost. I couldn't afford to get anything else in the shop, so I headed back to my farm to hatch my new egg. Unfortunately, I couldn't hatch it in the barn because it was full. I was so worried I wasn't going to be able to hatch it in time for the video. All I needed was 20 more wood and fiber to build another barn. I quickly got to chopping down trees and bushes, hoping I'd have enough stamina and time to gather the materials. Luckily, it didn't take much time at all to get another barn down, and I immediately went to hatch my new egg. I hatched a mini mayor. You and I are gonna take over this town, baby. I put him on my team because he had a passive ability called Produce Coin, though I wasn't 100% confident what it does. Editor Pook here to tell you that this ability, if you keep them in the barn, instead of producing like eggs or milk, they produce money. So don't put them on your team, put them to work. I couldn't figure out how to read the description for it. With 2 barns down, I decided to organize my blobs so that my cow blob and my fighting blobs would be separate. This way, I'd only have to feed the blob that produces milk to conserve resources. After selling my spare tickets and clovers, I got into bed. And that ends my first month in Ova Magica. I can't wait to dive back in. I'll have a full early access review article out on it soon. I'll likely make more videos on it too, because I love it so much. Let me know if there's anything in particular you guys want to see. I'll have a link to the Steam page in the description below if you want to get this game for yourself. If you liked the video, press the like. If you want to see more of me, subscribe. With all that out of the way, I hope you're living today in a way you won't regret, and I'll see you in the next one. Pook!